Check, 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 check 1, 2.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started with the Reusies program in just a few minutes. So if you could all please take your seats, we encourage you to get up close. We'll be starting the program in just a few minutes. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome you all to the third annual Reuse Awards, the Reusies 2023. My name is Julie Lammy, and I'm the Chief Friendmaker and COO at Upstream. Upstream is an innovative NGO that helps people, businesses, and communities shift from single-use to reuse. For the last 20 years, we've been helping to accelerate the transition to a new reuse economy in the food service, beverage, and consumer packaged goods sectors. Why reuse? Well, I imagine all of us in this room are well versed with the pollution problem with single-use packaging. But did you know 10% of all wood harvested, 20% of all aluminum mined, 40% of all plastic produced, and 50% of all glass created goes to make single-use packaging every year? So here we are at the Reusies. Today we celebrate the pioneers, trailblazers, innovators, and game-changing heroes creating a world without waste. We received hundreds of nominations for the finalists, and it all boils down to this moment. This year especially, our judges had a difficult job of choosing winners. For this year's Reusies, we are highlighting the theme of collaboration. Collaboration is essential among sectors, public, private, NGOs, in order to scale reuse models. Today, the Reusies will be broken into 2 parts. The awards program will run about an hour, where we'll be learning more about the reuse movement and the finalist. We will also have some special guests who will be coming up on the stage, including Brian Lewis from greenbiz.org and Aaron Simon from World Wildlife Fund. Then we'll take a short break, after which we'll enjoy a live panel discussion with thought leaders across multiple sectors as part of our live stream series, Indisposable Live, which builds on the Reusies' central theme of collaboration. The panel will be moderated by my colleague, Priscilla Johnson, Chief Strategy Officer at Upstream, and will include an open and engaging discussion on the successes, challenges, opportunities, and cooperation needed to make our vision of a new reuse economy a reality. Special thank yous to our host, GreenBiz. I saw some of you in the room. Our supporting sponsor, Closed Loop Partners, our judges, and VIPs. And a shout out to the finalists watching online, and as some of you here in the room, good luck to you all. Thank you to the Upstream team, especially Ben Fordham, Vanessa Tiong-Song, Aaron Covey-Smith, and Stephanie Nunez, and our former CEO and my fellow Reusies visionary, Matt Prindeville, who is here today. Hey, Matt. And thank you to the production team at Prince Street, especially those who are here today, David Moore, Sebastian Verne, and Vernon Fleming, who are producing the show for a 2nd year in a row. And now, to start the show, let's watch a short video to introduce our amazing host, back for a 2nd year as well, the always inspiring Christy Drutman.
Christy Drutman is an environmental justice advocate and founder and creator of Brown Girl Green, a media platform and podcast committed to promoting diversity and inclusion in the environmental movement, as well as creative solutions to the climate crisis.
Hi everyone, this is Brown Girl Green, and today I'm talking trash about recycling.
She started her Instagram page in 2017 because she didn't see great representation of people of color in environmental spaces, especially in her field of science communication. Now, with more than 70,000 followers, she circulates information about jobs in the environmental space on her Green Jobs board, promotes intersectional environmentalism, and breaks down climate issues in a fun and engaging way. Christy has become one of the top voices in the environmental movement and is continually, in her words, empowering people to feel like they can also be included in the conversation.
Here's to a greener future.
Please join me in welcoming Christy Drutman to the stage.
Hi everyone! I'm going to push through this with the last bits of my voice that I've left at this conference. As you can see, I've had a great time. But thank you so much for that amazing intro, and I'm so happy to be here for the Reusies this year for a 2nd year in a row, and this is like the first time we've hosted it in person, which is crazy. And my voice was much better last year. But, on a serious note, we're super grateful to have everyone in the room here with us today. And, I'm excited for all of you to learn about the finalists and everything they're doing to address the waste crisis around the world. Thank you. And I want to take a quick step back. We're all here at Circularity, which is an amazing conference that is covering a huge range of ideas and solutions. And of course, in this room, we're all about reusability. So we need to dive in. Why does reuse matter exactly? And how did the Reusies show come to be? We are going to hear from Julie and Vanessa from Upstream to share this story. So check out this clip. Thank you.
In 2018, 2018, many organizations working in the plastic pollution movement were working tirelessly to document and communicate the problems with plastic pollution.
Plastic.
About half of the plastic we use every day is used only once and then thrown away.
We're here at Camilo Point, and it is unaffectionately known as Trash Beach.
I would say that the way we recycle plastic at the moment is not part of the solution.
As more of us became aware of the problem, we all wanted solutions, ideally easy and fast solutions. Bans on plastic bags and straws, those were some of the early successes. But beyond that, there was not clear consensus on the best way forward.
Initially, the thinking was to find better single-use alternatives like paper and cardboard, but that proved not to be the answer we needed. Maybe you have less plastic pollution, but now you're cutting down more trees. And in the case of compostables and bioplastics, you're using the same toxic chemicals and even more carbon and water.
I mean, so many of us want to do the right thing, but we're like, what the heck is the right thing to do?
Our team pored over industry data, life cycle analyses, reports, and hundreds of case studies. And there it was, clear as day.
The problem isn't just single-use plastic.
It's single use, and reusables were not only a net gain for the environment, but they save businesses and communities money.
And so at Upstream, we went all in on reuse. But the #1 challenge was showing folks what this new reuse world could look like. Oh my God, the vision painting we had to do to create this reusable future was pretty hysterical. We were like the verbal equivalent of Bob Ross.
At one point, we went full Bob Ross and actually paid an illustrator to draw reusables at places like stadiums because that reality did not yet exist, except maybe at concerts with Jack Johnson.
Soon after, pioneers in the reuse space emerged and made that painting of the new reuse world real. Local communities from around the country, from Berkeley, California to Durham, North Carolina, began to lead the shift from single-use to reuse, and the circular economy really took off. Entrepreneurs and investors took major risks and created all of these new startup reuse companies as well.
In fact, our former CEO, Matt Prindiville, and I knew we wanted a bigger stage for the reuse movement. A credibility builder, an awareness builder, reuse show and tell perhaps, and we wanted a place to celebrate the reuse heroes who are creating real-life examples of what we had used illustrations and words to describe before.
And so Julie and Matt came to me with this crazy idea right in the middle of the COVID pandemic. They wanted to launch the Oscars of the reuse movement. And that's how the Reusies was born. Now in our 3rd year, we are amazed by the hundreds of nominations we receive across every category, recognizing activism, community leadership, business innovation, and corporate commitments to reuse.
It's important to recognize this would not be possible with Upstream alone. It's our amazing partners that are helping us build visibility for the reuse movement. This is just the beginning. We are so excited to celebrate the heroes of the reuse movement, and we invite you today to join us in building an indisposable future.
These reusables work together to help keep our world plastic free.
And so, we're gonna get through this, okay? So, we see that, the Reusies is an incredible project that came out of the pandemic. And what's even more amazing is that this whole movement only became possible due to collaboration, which is this year's theme. And throughout our show, we're gonna be learning about lots of forms of collaboration among businesses, governments, nonprofits, and communities. Each of us has a role to play, and everyone needs a seat at the table. And as you see, the range of awards and finalists really reflects this diversity of solutions. We have an exciting, jam-packed program for you today, including special guests who will be joining us on stage. It will show you all the range of what we need to grow a new reuse economy. And to kick things off, we're going to present 2 awards for Community Action of the Year. One is for Building Reuse, which are groups bringing reuse infrastructure to their communities, educating and providing reuse services to those who need them. And the other is Policy, those who are working on the legislative end, which looks like advocating, organizing, creating, and implementing policies we need to shift from single use to reuse. So let's check them out.
Hey everyone, my name is Gabe Middleton, co-founder and CEO at Human IT, last year's winner of the 2022 Reusies Community of the Year Award. At Human IT, We represent thousands of reuse advocates, creating digital equity and ensuring that millions of pounds of electronic waste are diverted away from our landfills every single year. It is my honor and privilege to present this year's Community Action of the Year in Building Reuse Award. This award highlights groups and organizations that are building projects and infrastructure directly in our communities, ensuring that we build a happier and healthier society. My advice to this year's finalists is to be outspoken and be bold. Make it easy for others to do good and join your cause. You would truly be surprised how much impact you create when you creatively collaborate with others. This year's finalists are really at the forefront of developing creative solutions that will transition us into tomorrow's circular economy. And these finalists are Reuse Minnesota, Reuse Seattle, the Stop Waste, Reuse and Repair Network.
Founded in 2012, Reuse Minnesota builds partnerships and supports a vibrant network of reuse practitioners through education, advocacy, and promotion. They envision regenerative, reuse-centered communities that protect the environment and value the well-being of future generations. They recognize the critical importance of building the next generation of reusers and repairers, and started an educational program for high school youth, helping students think about reuse in their own lives, including as possible careers in the future. They also recently helped establish the Minnesota Reusables Coalition, which develops and supports infrastructure, policies, and partnerships to advance reusable foodware and packaging systems throughout the state, seeking to build an ecosystem for reusable foodware and packaging that flourishes as a cultural norm. Reuse Seattle brings reusable food and beverage container solutions to the city's businesses and residents. Their vision is for a convenient, connected, interoperable, and standardized network of reuse systems throughout the city. To help more businesses make the switch to reuse, Reuse Seattle launched a rebate program that will provide incentives and assistance to up to 250 businesses. Through partnership and collaboration, Reuse Seattle is building the blueprint for systems change at a citywide level. Founded and coordinated by Stop Waste, a public agency in Alameda County, California, the Stop Waste Reuse and Repair Network brings together businesses and nonprofits involved in reuse, repair, and redistribution to connect, share resources and ideas, form partnerships, and support each other in overcoming barriers. By facilitating network activities, creating shared resources, and fostering a sense of community, the network helps the area's innovative and hardworking reuse and repair organizations form a strong, resilient, and influential industry. The network builds on the idea that the more it uplifts reuse and repair organizations and enables them to collaborate, find strength in numbers, and have a collective voice, the stronger local reuse and repair infrastructure will be.
And the winner for Community Action of the Year in Building Reuse is Reuse Seattle.
Thank you so much for honoring Reuse Seattle with this award. We started this work with the dream to displace single-use culture with a solution that helps us advance Seattle's vision of zero waste and build a more inclusive circular economy. We're just beginning our journey, but with a growing network of reuse advocates and practitioners joining our city-led initiative, we're already making real strides. And everything that's been accomplished so far has been possible through collaboration, which we believe is key to making any systemic change. So on behalf of Reuse Seattle, I want to thank our reuse community, our wonderful consultants, Cascadia Consulting Group and Blue Daisy, for powering so much of this work, our partner organizations like PR3, who have helped us envision a standardized reuse system since day one, our service providers, and our Seattle businesses and institutions that are helping to bring reuse systems to life across our city. Together, we will build a future where reuse solutions are thriving citywide. Thank you.
Que pasa, familia? I'm Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, Executive Vice President of the National Wildlife Federation and CEO and founder of Revitalization Strategies. It's an honor to be with you as we highlight Community Action of the Year and Policy Award, recognizing community-based organizations, coalitions, student organizations, nonprofits, and NGOs. My grandmother says that when you know better, do better. These organizations are helping us to actually do better, to address the hundreds of thousands of people who are dying prematurely from air pollution, the millions who are dealing with unsafe drinking water, and the 90% of plastics that have never been recycled but often end up in our most vulnerable communities and in our streams, our lakes, our rivers, and our oceans. Now is the moment to make real change happen. And these examples from these organizations are helping us to do just that. Join me as we now share with you the 2023 finalists.
Keep Truckee Green, Reusable San Mateo County, the town of Banff. Keep Truckee Green coordinates the planning and implementation of Truckee's waste reduction and climate change actions, working together with the innovative, action-oriented community towards finding solutions for preserving their unique mountain environment. The town successfully passed a landmark single-use foodware reduction ordinance in November 2022, which includes 4 policies: a ban on styrofoam, reuse only for in-house dining, a fee for both disposable cups and, uniquely, takeout containers, and for takeout, accessory foodware only upon request. The policies will go into effect in January 2024, and town staff will provide technical assistance and business outreach to support the transition. Reusable San Mateo County is a coalition of businesses, organizations, and community members who advocate for reuse policies with the goal to reduce plastic pollution while protecting public health, communities, and the environment. Understanding the diversity of their communities, they support reuse policy initiatives and programs that reflect the needs and priorities of each community. In less than 2 years of work, Reusable San Mateo County has already celebrated 5 reuse victories, and their Reusable San Mateo County Cost and Waste Assessment tool, developed by co-founder Sally Liu and member Daisy Fong, has become a great reuse advocacy resource for reuse coalitions and other groups across the United States and Canada. As a town located in Canada's first national park, with wildlife and sensitive ecosystems all around, reducing landfill waste in Banff is a key priority. As a result of grassroots efforts led by the groups The Bare Minimum and Banff Isn't Disposable, the town, alongside a business environmental leadership working group, developed a single-use item reduction strategy and bylaw adopted in 2023. The bylaw, among the first in Canada of its kind, requires reusables for on-site dining. It also includes a strategy focused on reduction and reuse, tailored to their unique tourism-based context. Beginning in 2024, Banff aims to be a community where there are no takeaway-only businesses, which they see as a strong message to send to visitors from around the globe.
And the winner for the 2023 Community Action of the Year and Policy Award is
the town of Banff.
Thank you so much. We are so honored to be a part of this year's Reusies and so inspired by the work being done by all of the finalists here. We were so lucky in Banff to have 2 amazing grassroots initiatives that launched our policy and got it on our council's agenda, and reallocated resources being dedicated toward the topic of single-use item reduction and reuse in our community. So I want to give a huge shout out to Emma from the Bare Minimum and Luna from Banff Isn't Disposable, who were the amazing youth who led those initiatives in our community. And I hope that the work you see as a result of it can be an inspiration to advocate to own governments and work in other communities to get these policies on the agenda that make the reuse future happen that we're all here to see. Thank you so much, and again, we're very honored.
Can we get another round of applause? Thank you. Okay, great. All right. So I'm really excited for this next segment because it's an in-person interview, which is going to make these things really interesting. But basically, you know, when we're talking about building a circular economy, we have to talk about who is and who isn't in the room. It's a big part of what I do at Brown Girl Green is talking about representation, especially of BIPOC And when we're talking about solutions to these issues, we have to talk about how communities actually benefit from these solutions and how their leadership is actually in these rooms and making these decisions as well. And, you know, if we're really talking about how do we get people of color into these conversations, we have to see good examples of that, right? And it's amazing because thankfully, GreenBiz has done that work through their Emerging Leaders program. And they have the perfect person who leads that effort, who I'm so excited to have on the stage with me today. And basically, the Emerging Leaders program, for people who don't know, is a program that elevates, cultivates, and supports the next generation of BIPOC who are creating climate solutions in their communities. So I'm so excited to have Brian Lewis to the stage for this very fun and engaging 5-minute conversation.
Hello? What's going on, y'all?
Well, Brian, I'm obviously going to make you do most of the talking here. But tell us a bit about your story. What brought you to GreenBiz? Why does this work matter so much to you?
Community brought me to GreenBiz. Before I was doing this work, I was actually running a youth program that was growing the next generation of green leaders in the city of Detroit. And what I saw was the lack of integration within our education system of sustainable ideas, sustainable education, and also the hands-on opportunities to get in touch with your community and your environment. And so what we did was we not only educated our young people about recycling and energy and water and conservation and all the different aspects of sustainability, but we got them engaged with people in their community that were also doing projects in their neighborhoods and allowed them to lead projects in collaboration with adults so that they can form relationships in their community and also form a deeper sense of place that brings them closer to both who they are as a person and also what their community can do in terms of making it more environmentally sustainable. And now we have the opportunity to do that with our amazing class of emerging leaders here at GreenBiz.
So tell us more about the Emerging Leaders program. Like, what is the main mission and goal? Like, what do you all hope the cohort comes out of this program achieving or learning by the end of these conferences?
I hope that they have the opportunity to see themselves in this industry. I want to be able to create a community that is so critically connected and well-resourced that we're able to not feel so isolated in our day-to-day jobs. The industry itself is in need of more diversity, equity, and inclusion. And for people of color like myself who care about our environment but also care about our communities who are experiencing environmental injustices and the lack of opportunities to engage with nature and to have a healthy environment, I think it's really, really important for us to create community and to see one another in true selves in that community so that we can rest confident and rest assured that we're not the only ones.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think like when it comes to community collaboration, which is this year's theme, is a key part of that, right? Mm-hmm. So where do you feel collaboration, how do you think collaboration could be playing a role in really supporting and nourishing this group of emerging leaders?
Well, we can't do this without everyone. And for people of color like myself, I think it's really important, like I said, to see ourselves actively engaged in supporting one another. But I think it's important for that not just to be our thing. I think everybody has to feed into this ecosystem because we need mentors, we need guidance, we need resources, we need companies to come in and support us and have a conversation with us that allows us to grow in leadership such that we can be the leaders not just of tomorrow, but of right here, right now, today.
That's incredible. Can we get a round of applause for just that statement? It's amazing. Oh my God. So, unfortunately, I'd love to talk to you for hours, but there's hundreds of people watching us live and tons of people here in the audience today. Can you give them a call to action? Prospective employers, mentors, people who are going to know your emerging leaders cohort. What is your call to action to them today?
Well, I'm really, really excited that we're creating this community of emerging leaders and convening them in our Emerging Leaders Network. And that network is being supported by an online virtual platform via Gradual. And via that platform, we're going to have mentorship, opportunities for professional coaching and development. And if you're interested, for example, if you're a mentor, if you're a company, if you're an employer, or if you're just someone who wants to help out, I want you to get in contact with me. My email is Bryan, Bryan, at greenbiz.org or greenbiz.com. They'll both go to the same place. And let's have a conversation about getting you in contact with the leaders that we have in our network. And first and foremost, I do want to say, last conference, I also lost my voice. I get it. I understand. I feel you. I see you. And also, I support you. Thank you so much for going through this, empowering through this. You're amazing, Christy.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, to wrap up here, you know, I know some of the emerging leaders are in the audience right now, so I'd love if they can take a moment and take a stand, and so everyone can know who they are and cheer them on.
Woo-hoo.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Bryan, for all your work for GreenBiz and the Emerging Leaders Program. It is so critical to have this type of representation, funding, and support for our community. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Christy.
Thank you. So as I transition to my understudy, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for this opportunity for me to host the Reusies. I just appreciate this community so much, and each and every one of you is such a leader in your community, and each and every one of you in this room really is a part of this bigger discussion around the reusability movement. So thank you so much for being here and just being a part of this space of innovation and creativity. And with that being said, I'm going to have Vanessa transition and take over for the remainder of the program to present the next awards. But thank you all so much.
Hello. Hi, everyone. First time I'm doing this, so bear with me. I'm Vanessa Tiongson, Christy Drutman's understudy, AKA also the Chief Marketing Officer at Upstream. And so can we just give another round of applause, please, to Christy and Bryan and GreenBiz and this incredible Emerging Leaders Program. It's definitely something that we should all strive to focus on in terms of equity and inclusion and within this reuse movement. So how's everyone doing so far? Are we enjoying ourselves? Okay, are we ready to give out more awards? Excited to do that? All right. So the next award category that we have is focusing on all of the innovative companies focusing on reuse. And so we have 3 categories under most innovative reuse company: consumer packaged goods, food and beverage, and one of my personal favorites, fashion and apparel. And so I'm not sure if you all noticed, but one of last year's winners, Gabe Middleton, actually presented the Community Action of the Year award. And so we also called upon last year's winners to present this year's winners of most innovative reuse companies to kind of pass the torch, if you will. So without further ado, let's learn more about the finalists for most innovative and see who wins.
Hey, what's up, Solutioneers? I'm Brian Bauer, Head of Circular Economy and Institutional Partnerships at Algramo. It's an honor to be here tonight to present the award for the most innovative reuse company in the consumer packaged goods space. This is such an important award because 20 to 30% of the packaging in your average supermarket can be replaced by reusable packaging. This is an amazing way to keep packaging in the economy and out of the environment, to allow people to buy the products for the lowest possible price in the most convenient manner without producing packaging waste. Through their brilliant collaborative efforts in working with all key actors across the plastics value chain and the packaging value chains, these startups have done amazing work, and it's a great pleasure to introduce you to the 3 finalists. Generation Conscious, Returnity, Revolution.
Partnering with universities, multifamily buildings, and commercial real estate developers to install laundry soap refill stations, Generation Conscious has built a zero-waste, zero-water infrastructure to end hygiene insecurity and create a paradigm shift necessary in the U.S. consumer culture. It is a first-generation, black-led company that employs local labor, reinvests surplus profits into BIPOC and queer-led fellowships, and ensures economic success is shared by the workers. In 1 year, they've grown from 2 to 23 university-paid partners, amassing more than 500 student volunteers and 71 first-generation low-income student workers. Since 2021, Generation Conscious has also eliminated 4.8 tons of water, saved 154 tons of carbon emissions, and diverted 32,000 plastic jugs from landfills, incinerators, and the environment. Returnity designs, manufactures, and implements reusable shipping and delivery packaging solutions for brands and retailers. They've revolutionized internal logistics shipping with the launch of The Last Box, a cost and labor-efficient alternative to cardboard that enables clients to move products between factories, stores, and warehouses faster and cheaper, while significantly reducing their environmental footprint. The Last Box is on track to displace millions of single-use boxes in 2023. Returnity has become the go-to partner for retailers that want to integrate reusable packaging in a scalable, sustainable manner. By leading brands to the best business models for reuse, Returnity is creating a critical foundation of success that will accelerate the circular supply chain. Revolution takes single-use packaging and products and re-engineers better functionality and savings into reusable versions. From reusable fresh and shelf-stable food packaging, to shipping bags and boxes, to circular agricultural and pharmaceutical containers, Revolution's reusable product designs and reuse-as-a-service systems have proven better than disposable in the areas of costs, impact, and user engagement. Since 2012, they have relentlessly focused on ensuring reuse mimics or surpasses single-use convenience and cost-effectiveness, and they utilize a no-deposit model to allow for greater accessibility to all socioeconomic levels. On average, Revolution's reusable packaging has helped clients reduce trash by 92%, GHG emissions by 66%, and primary resource usage by 85% compared to disposable.
Wow, I don't envy the judges. This must have been such a difficult decision. All these companies are doing truly amazing work. And the winner is Generation Conscious.
Thank you so much. We are so thrilled to accept this award. I mean, as a first-generation Trinidadian Chinese who grew up near 9 waste transfer facilities and get asthma because of it, I couldn't be more thrilled that our work is finally being recognized. And as the leading generator of waste in the world per capita, we here in the United States must move towards refillables and reuse. But even more important than that, we must be conscious of eco-classism, where we shame poor people for not adopting more sustainable behaviors when in reality they're priced out of the market. A systems change from linear consumption to refillables that ignores cost and access will always fail. We must ensure the circular economy is accessible to all Americans. Thank you, Upstream. Thank you, Reusies. Now let's transform our economy into one that is equitable and just.
Hey Reuse fans, I'm Michael Martin. I'm CEO and founder of Our Cup. I'm so honored to be presenting the Reusies for the most innovative reuse company in the food and beverage space. Previous generations had it right. They did reuse right. They had reusable milk bottles, beer bottles, Coke bottles, food containers that were used over and over and over. Then we've introduced single use into the system, and it's created huge challenges for the health of our people and our planet. And recycling and composting systems are broken. They're not working right. You think about reduce, reuse, recycle. We got to move from recycle up to reuse. And what's exciting is the nominees this year are really doing that. They're moving the needle the way it needs to go. These companies are working together, they're innovating, they're cleaning each other's stuff, and there's nonprofits like Upstream doing great work. The federal government just last month announced that they're embracing reuse. It's an exciting time. Reuse is exploding. It's critical, it does. So I'm really honored to be introducing the nominees for this year's Reusies for the most innovative food and beverage company. They are Boomerang Water, Deliver Zero, Redish.
The Boomerang bottling system offers a sustainable and innovative solution to single-use water bottle waste. By creating a closed-loop, semi-automated bottling system that utilizes durable, reusable aluminum and glass bottles, Boomerang has shown that businesses can provide a sustainable alternative to their customers, clients, and employees, and demonstrates that sustainable and responsible alternatives to single-use plastics are both feasible and necessary for a greener future. Their high-throughput process can handle 400 to 500 returnable bottles per hour, displacing 1 million single-use bottles annually, and providing ultra-filtered, locally sourced water for low-carbon, chemical and microplastic-free hydration. When it became clear to reuse takeout and delivery service provider Deliver Zero that the best solution to the single-use waste problem is a neutral network of returnable, reusable packaging that lives across all points of sale, they set out to build it. Deliver Zero's technology can integrate with any online ordering platform or point-of-sale system, making reuse easy, with virtually no added effort required from merchants or end users to incorporate reusables into daily life. In addition to pioneering this easily accessible system, they have been the first to actively lobby local legislators in the regions in which they operate to pass legislation that drives reuse forward. Redish delivers reuse as a service, providing the warewashing infrastructure and software that makes reuse possible at scale. They offer solutions to third parties, as well as a reusable dishware program, helping food service generate less waste and companies and schools meet their ESG goals. In 2022, Redish enabled the diversion of 32,000 pounds of waste, reduced CO2 emissions by 47,000 kilograms, and saved more than 65,000 gallons of water from client sites. With Redish, institutions help normalize reuse behavior every day, proving that when you enable individuals to participate in the reuse economy at scale, exponential progress can be made towards fighting climate change and mitigating the waste crisis.
And the winner for the most innovative reuse company in the food and beverage sector is Redish.
This is amazing. Thank you to the Upstream Solutions folks, to the judges, and to everyone who voted for Redish. We are so excited to be part of this passionate, vibrant community. I truly believe we're reaching an inflection point in which circularity and all the solutions represented in this community will become real. Thank you to our schools and our corporates who have supported us either as customers of our back-end solutions or as users of dishware as a service. It is brave to be an early adopter, and we're so very grateful. And a special shout out to the Redish team who have worked tirelessly over the last 3 years to bring reuse to scale with Redish. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Hey, can we just give another round of applause to Generation Conscious and Redish? And truly, let's give another round of applause for all of the finalists in all of these categories. I mean, you guys are doing incredible work, and like I said in the video earlier, taking on major risks and sacrificing so much just to create a better planet for us all. So thank you and congratulations. The next award in the most innovative category is, like I said, one of my favorites, fashion and apparel. And, you know, to coin a phrase that Christy taught me, rocking my Susty fit right now. And for those of you who don't know what that means, that actually means sustainable outfits. So thank you, Christy, for teaching all of us the jargon. So next up, we'll take a look at the finalists for fashion apparel, and then we'll also have some special appearances after that. So enjoy.
Hi, my name is Sheila Kim Parker, CEO and co-founder of Thrilling, and I'm delighted to be presenting this year's finalists for Most Innovative Reuse Company in Fashion and Apparel Award. We're honoring entrepreneurs who are trying to keep apparel in circulation for as long as possible. Unfortunately, fashion has a massive waste problem. We produce too much of it, causing harmful emissions into our water and air. And most of what we buy will end up in landfills, choking communities in the global south. But there is hope. Companies like this year's finalists are working on innovative solutions collaboratively to ensure we have a cleaner and brighter future. There are really 3 legs to this solution, and you've heard them before. Reduce, reuse, recycle. We do need to reduce our consumption and production. We do need to invest in recycling technologies. But importantly, we need to reuse what we already buy. And that's what this year's finalists are doing, ensuring that the clothes we buy end up in closets of people who will love them for longer. This year's finalists are Alternew, Bleckman, The Renewal Workshop, Treat.
Alternew is the first online platform that is changing the way we care for our wardrobes. With just a few clicks, customers connect with a specialist who meets their needs, from watch repairs to tailors to cobblers, to mend and alter their current wardrobe rather than buying into the fast fashion industry, which has grown 400% over the last 20 years and has led consumers to wear clothes half as long. Alternew's approach allows individuals to conveniently and confidently care for their wardrobe, supporting a repair and circularity-based economy, while also boosting the local economy by leveraging the talents of small and local fashion care specialists. The Renewal Workshop, TRW, acquired by Bleckman in 2022, identified a need in the market for apparel and textile brands to extend the life of their post-consumer products that were once considered waste. So they created the Renewal System, restoring products to standardized conditions for resale. Bleckman partners with brands to tell a new and different story to their customers, increasing brand equity, loyalty, retention, and customer value as the leading provider of circular solutions for apparel and textile brands. From 2016 to 2022, TRW experts and their partners have prevented 693 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions, saved 99 million gallons of water, and prevented the use of 686,000 pounds of toxic chemicals. Treat's software platform allows brands of any size to launch a resale experience for customers to buy and sell pre-loved apparel, ensuring each item lives its longest life. By offering multiple paths for customers to resell their items, from peer-to-peer resale to trade-in, Treat opens the door for the highest volume of items to be resold. Treat manages the entire experience on behalf of their brands to ensure items are received and verified by the buyer. Their secret sauce is to make resale approachable for brands, with a simple app download and onboarding questionnaire, creating a quick, easy path for them to say yes to sustainability and circularity.
And the winner for most innovative reuse company in fashion and apparel is Bleckman, The Renewal Workshop.
Wow, super news. Thank you to the Reusies and everyone who voted for Bleckman for this incredible award. We're honored to be recognized as the most innovative reuse company in fashion and apparel in 2023. At Bleckman, we are committed to offering innovative circular solutions to meet the sustainability goals of our brands. And part of these solutions is the Renewal Workshop, which restores pre-loved items to standardized conditions and enables resales while reducing the negative environmental impact. And as a logistics company, we used to be part of the fast fashion problem, but now more and more we're evolving towards the circular solution. And thank you for this award. It motivates us to keep on working towards a more sustainable future.
Congratulations, Bleckman. Really great job. You know, sustainability in fashion is I definitely think an area of opportunity that we're trying to, really focus on. And at Upstream, and as you can see, reuse even in the fashion industry can be a climate solution as well. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to one of our board members who's here today, Linda Corrado. She's really been a pioneer in the sustainable fashion, and really she also sits on the board of Fashion Revolution, and she's really trying to build awareness and education to really revolutionize and integrate more reuse into the fashion industry. So major props to Linda. So just to keep this party going and mix things up a bit, I'd like to invite to the stage our next guest, who is one of my personal favorites and a fundamental thought leader in the reuse movement. As Vice President and Head of Plastic Waste and Business at the World Wildlife Fund, she drives positive change across industries in packaging and material sustainability. With her thought leadership, along with WWF, she is helping to transform the way the world solves the plastic waste crisis. And it is my honor to welcome Erin Simon to the stage.
Julie asked me to dance. I was both worried I'd trip and fall and then embarrass my team, so I just gave you a little. But thank you so much. Thank you, Vanessa. It's an honor to be here. So exciting to see all this. And I feel like, Christy, I was like losing my voice watching you. It's like just chugging water, hoping for the best. But World Wildlife Fund has this vision. This is a vision to get to no plastic in nature by 2030. And that, when you think about it, just sounds quite ambitious and a little overwhelming. And I think that's because it is. But it is a bar we set on purpose, because to do anything less would be a disservice to our planet. It's not anything less would not meet the plastic pollution crisis at the scope, at the speed that we need. Because at the current rate we're going to double the amount of plastic we produce and triple the amount that ends up in our oceans if we go as business as usual, and that will happen in less than 20 years, right? And so we have to change that trajectory, and we can't do that without acting fast and going big. WWF champions a lot of different solutions in this area, but to really come back to the theme of Reusies this year, there is a critical element that is key in all of those things we do, and that is collaboration. If we're gonna stop the flow of plastic into nature, we need everybody to do their part. We need to make sure that stakeholders at every level feel empowered, know that their actions, their advocacy, it all makes a difference, big or small. In fact, just a month ago, I had the incredible honor of speaking to a bunch of middle school girls about plastic pollution, and they were, of course, a captivated audience as they heard me share what the state of the planet was going to be, this planet that they're going to inherit. And of course, upon hearing about the statistics, they were outraged and frustrated, and they wanted to take action themselves. And within a week, got their school to remove single-use plastics from their cafeteria, right? And I think we underestimate these actions. I think I think that it can feel not enough, right? But none of the things that they did, none of the things that we've heard from these finalists, none of those are insignificant, right? That's the power of what happens when we align on a common goal and we take the actions that are in front of us in that moment to get there. So in just a slightly different scale, last week I was in Paris, and I was privileged to be a part of the WWF delegation in the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee meetings that were happening to negotiate a global treaty to end plastic pollution. And with 175 different countries coming together to debate what could go into this, I think there was never a better moment for collaboration, right? And unfortunately, we didn't always get it, right? While we ultimately ended up close to where we needed to be last week, there was time and again, people delaying, countries delaying progress. And that can be frustrating, but I truly believe that we would have not had those dissenting voices if we hadn't been heading in the right direction in the first place, right? Because if this was easy, if it was easy to reduce single-use plastics to take reuse to scale, we would have done it already, right? And so we're really trying to drive for holistic change across the entire system, and so that's daunting, but it is absolutely within reach. And I get even more confident and hopeful when I see examples like we are in this competition, because that high bar is just absolutely what the world needs from us. So as I head into the next INC in a shorter period of time than I think my body is ready, in November in Nairobi, Kenya, it is going to be critical that we find that international alignment, that we push for great communication and good collaboration, because at the end, we need to keep that momentum moving. We need to hold that bar high for the planet. We need to keep our goals in sight for the sake of species, communities, people, and of course our children, who are arguably leading the way to a better future already. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. It is also an honor. And Vanessa, you may have the stage back.
Thank you so much, Erin. Like, seriously, thank you for all the good work and going to Paris and just doing the thing. So really, thank you for that. So our next award that we have coming up is a corporate initiative honorary award, and this is an award that we really wanted to recognize for, again, like the corporations who are not just running pilots or projects, but really making meaningful commitments to reuse. As our role is Upstream, we have the opportunity to bring a lot of different stakeholders to the table. So again, like, we really wanted to recognize the many champions that we have within the corporate sector, because again, you're swimming upstream and it's not easy. So without further ado, the Corporate Initiative Honorary Award.
Hey Solutioneers, how are you doing? I'm Lisa Zwack, Head of Sustainability at Kroger. It is my pleasure to be announcing the winner of the Corporate Initiative of the Year Honorary Award. The company we are highlighting has really demonstrated excellence in piloting and implementing reusable packaging and reuse solutions in North America. I know from my experience, there are a few key things to think about when we are tackling complex problems like packaging circularity. We need to collaborate. We can't do these things on our own. We need to communicate, and we really need companies to try new things so that we can learn from one another. The company that we are celebrating today has really shown the impact that a large consumer brand can have when they invest in sustainability and when they try to move beyond commitment to action. So it is my pleasure to announce the winner of the Corporate Initiative of the Year Honorary Award. And that company is the Clorox Company. Congratulations.
Clorox has ambitious plastic and waste reduction goals, including a 50% combined reduction in virgin plastic and fiber packaging by 2030, 100% recyclable, reusable, or compostable packaging by 2025, and double post-consumer recycled plastic in packaging by 2030, among others. They recently launched a bathroom foaming and multi-purpose spray refill system, which features up to 80% plastic reduction throughout product life. Clorox's long-term vision goes beyond this one product launch. They broadly encourage category transformation that can lead to significant reductions and encourage consumers to reuse and refill. Spray refills are one such example that can enable significant reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, plastic use, transport cost, among many more.
Congratulations again to the Clorox Company. I can't wait to see what you do next. And I'm so inspired to think about what we all can collaborate on in the future.
Congratulations to Clorox. It's really important that companies are taking accountability for reusability and reducing waste on all fronts, no matter the risk of fear or reputation. So we really hope Clorox's model can become a model for many others to follow. So somehow the hour has really zoomed by. I don't know about you, but like time flies, I guess, like when you're having fun. Hopefully y'all are still having fun. But last but not least, we have reached our final award for today. Again, this is really one of my favorites. It's the Reusies Activist of the Year. This award is for the individual change makers. And let's be honest, these are really the unsung heroes, right? Like, these are the people who are working in their communities, championing reuse, and really understanding better than anyone else the sacrifices and risks needed to empower their communities and make circularity a reality. To present this amazing award, you will be hearing from last year's Activist of the Year, Alejandra Warren, who knows all about what it takes to bring people together and spur collective action. I'll let her take it from here.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Alejandra Warren. I am the co-founder and executive director of Plastic Free Future. It is an honor for me to be here today introducing you to Activist of the Year 2023, a wonderful way to celebrate community activists doing beautiful work around reduce, reuse, and refill systems in their own communities. Being a community activist requires a lot of radical imagination. Imagination to envision a world where reuse systems are helping us transition to a circular economy. A circular economy where abundance, collaboration, and love are helping us create better systems and to move away from individualism and a throwaway culture. So it is an honor for me to introduce you to the nominees. The nominees are Stephanie Compton, Jennifer Navarra, Daniel Vukolich.
A zero waste consultant and organizer for Clean Air Baltimore Coalition, Stephanie focuses on events and education to make a broad-reaching impact in her community, using setups like mug lending and waste sorting stations as venues for engagement. She freely shares resources and insights with residents, business owners, and city officials alike, advocating for change by illustrating solutions. In addition, she is partnering with Johns Hopkins University to develop a Bring Your Own Decal initiative and campaign, as well as working with student volunteers to develop a ladder of engagement for local businesses to go zero waste. As program director for Zero Waste Hawaii Island, Jennifer has led a multi-pronged campaign to create system-level changes. From partnering on pilots for a bottle return system and a city-scale reusable foodware program, to policy work to pass state-level extended producer responsibility for packaging that prioritizes reduction and reuse, Zero Waste Hawaii has worked under her guidance with a solutions focus and inclusive approach, forging multiple partnerships and collaborations to do the important work of reducing waste in a place where there is literally no place for it to go. Taking on the one-way throwaway paradigm from a unique angle, Dan provides hospital management and policymakers with the tools to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, cost, and waste through the safe reuse of single-use medical devices. When he began this work in the year 2000, roughly $20 million worth of single-use devices were collected and reprocessed at a handful of hospitals. Today, over $468 million of these devices are reused at over 10,500 hospitals. He has worked tirelessly to advocate for strict regulations globally to level the playing field and keep patients safe, educate EU and US policymakers on well-designed life cycle studies, and speak with surgeons, nurses, and hospital purchasing agents on the rapid growth of the field.
And the winner for Activist of the Year 2023 is Daniel Vukolich.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Reusies for providing a platform to bring attention to solutions that we can bring, like medical device reprocessing, to reduce emissions and cost and waste in our healthcare supply chain. It may surprise people to know that the healthcare industry itself is particularly toxic. In fact, 8.5% of all US emissions are coming from healthcare. We have a special duty in healthcare to doing no harm. And so in providing patient care, we shouldn't be creating so much waste that it's creating adverse health outcomes and environmental damage when we seek to do better for our patients. And so I appreciate the opportunity to bring attention to reprocessing and the solution that it brings to healthcare with the Reusies. And on behalf of the reprocessors and the healthcare clinicians that are embracing medical device reprocessing to reduce waste and cost and emissions, I accept this award. Thank you very much.
And thus concludes the awards program. Congratulations, Daniel. Congratulations to the winners. Oh my God, like I said, I think this hour really went by lightning speed. And so I just gonna wrap things up here. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really inspired, and quite frankly, I'm inspired every day that I get to work for a company like Upstream that's really focused on spotlighting heroes like this. And I'm really grateful that so many people came today. I know today's the last day of the conference. People are tired, losing their voices, probably ready to go home or ready to have lunch or go to happy hour. But I really appreciate for all of the people that came here to watch, everyone who's watching online. Thank you for showing up and being inspired by all of these heroes. So congratulations to all of our winners and finalists today, and all of you working hard to make a difference and a better planet for all of us to live in. Thank you so much to the Upstream team, the best team ever, for giving me the opportunity. And thank you for Christy losing her voice for me being the understudy today. So, Christy, you did great. Thank you for really pulling through. Even though we're done with the award show for now, we want you to stick around because there's so much more in store. Feel free to get up, stretch, grab some water, and after a short 15-minute break, there's going to be a live panel discussion, like Julie mentioned at the top of the show, building off of our theme of collaboration. So make sure to come back after the break. Same for you, online audience, because it's going to be a really cool, rich, and engaging panel discussion. So that's it for me. And on behalf of Christy and behalf of Upstream, thank you again. And let's keep up the spirit of collaboration well beyond this room and out in the world. Thank you all.
Attention, everybody. We are going to get started with our reuse panel in just a few minutes, so start making your way to your seats. We'll get started momentarily. Thank you.
And welcome back. We are so privileged to have this final session be about what we've all been talking about. The Reusies, I think, really highlighted to us the number of people who are in a solution space and are risking things, their livelihoods, their savings, their blood, their sweat, their tears, but it's not all gloom and doom, because we're together in this. And what this last panel is going to demonstrate is that it requires investors, it requires entrepreneurs, it requires corporations, and it requires each of us as consumers to make better and better choices as we become more informed. So it is my pleasure to open up this session. And by the way, my name's Dr. Priscilla Johnson. I'm interim CEO and Chief Strategy Officer for Upstream. This session is on working together to build a new reuse economy. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first panelist, Yinka Bode-George. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Yinka Bode-George. I'm the CEO and founder of Sustain Our Future Foundation. Our mission is to transform sustainable development in a manner that maximizes community impact positively and achieves environmental justice. And our main way of doing that is by redistributing profits from sustainable development projects into community impact initiatives, all with a lens of environmental justice. And it's great to be here with you all.
Thank you, Yinka. And next we have Helen Cow. She is our group manager in global reusables at Starbucks.
Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here, and thank you. It's so inspiring to be at the Reusies this year, seeing all the innovators, the cities, the activists, all of the companies working together to build this new reuse world. So Helen Cow, Starbucks, been here for about 11 years, took on a number of different roles across beverage, marketing, digital, store formats, and now reusables. I'm happy to say I've landed in a role that I'm truly passionate about. I love the work. I just love the people. I just love the impact that we're making. And it's something that I'm proud of too, because my 4- and 6-year-old, they can actually articulate what I do, and they're very proud of me. So just something I love. But on the reusables team at Starbucks, we have a bit of a unique model where we are actually supporting all of our global markets around the world towards the shift towards reusables. I'll also just give a little context on overall Starbucks Planet Positive goals. So Starbucks by 2030, our goal is to reduce waste, carbon, and water by 50%, and then net zero by 2050. And the way that packaging fits into that is, if you think about waste in particular, packaging is about half of Starbucks waste. And then when you think about that, cups and lids, the whole cup system is really the biggest contributor to packaging. So in order to kind of move the waste target towards the waste target, also reduce carbon and water, we really have to focus on our cup system. So really critical, and it's not just about that compostability and recyclability, but also shifting towards reuse in the future. That's the only way we're gonna get there. So in my role, I sort of do a lot of just orchestration of global activities, trying to help our global markets really align towards similar reuse targets. I advise on strategies, test and learn. We really try to coordinate all of the testing that's happening around the world to create shared learnings that can inform our approach going forward. So thank you again.
Thank you, Helen. And next up, we have Georgia Sherwin. She's the Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships at Closed Loop Partners. You've probably seen them over and over again here at Circularity. They represent the investor community. Take it away, Georgia.
Thank you. And so happy to be here. I'm feeling very, very energized after the Reusies. That was truly an amazing past hour. So excited to be in this context. And yeah, as said, Closed Loop Partners, we're an investment firm dedicated to investing in solutions in the circular economy across a number of different sectors. So from plastics and packaging, fashion and apparel, food and ag, and supply chain technologies, but always through that circular economy lens. And so when it comes to reuse, We've invested in companies providing reuse solutions. So El Gramo, who you saw presenting one of the awards, is a portfolio company of closed loop partners. And also through our innovation center, we do a lot of work in market to help test, refine, and hone reuse solutions in the field. And so we've worked with Starbucks through our Next Gen Consortium and a number of other brands and organizations to really help bring reuse to life in the field.
And thank you, Georgia. And you all probably recognize Ashima Sukhdev. Ashima, your t-shirt says Reuse Seattle. And they were, of course, a 2023 Reusies winner. So introduce yourself, Ashima.
Thank you. Feeling great, fresh off the win. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashima Sukhdev. I work with the City of Seattle, Seattle Public Utilities, as our Climate and Circular Economy Policy Advisor. I'm a very proud member of the Reuse Seattle team. We're a small but mighty team. It's an initiative that's led by the city, but really brings together a broad coalition of organizations in the city to help move our city's residents and businesses from single-use food service packaging to reusable food service packaging. Welcome to you all to Seattle. It's been so wonderful to have you all here, and really looking forward to discussing reuse with you all.
Thank you so much, Ashima. So my first question is directed to you, Helen and Georgia. I'm wondering, what do you think it would take to make reusables scale?
Great question. So if we think about moving Starbucks cup system to reuse, just think about this. We have literally 100 million customers going to our stores every single day around the world. We have 85 different markets, as I mentioned. And then we also have 7 billion disposable cups used annually right now. So I think kind of by default, getting to scale means it's just gonna take a lot, right? If we're gonna get to scale, that's the whole point of what we're doing on this test and learn journey. Over the past couple years, we have conducted, over 30 different pilots around the world in the different areas of reusables. We have 3 programs that we focus on. The first is for Hereware, which essentially is reusables for dine-in. That really varies by market. Some markets, are, up to half of their occasions are that sit and stay occasion. And so that is gonna be a key program for them to scale reusables. We also have our Bring Your Own Cup, which I know most coffee shops do. So we've had that for a couple decades as well. So we really want to drive that consumer behavior. The challenge there is remembering to bring that cup, and also it's gotta be clean. But we also try to incentivize that as well. And the most nascent program that we have is our Borrow a Cup program, sometimes also known as Returnable Cup, as we do in Europe. And that is, of course, the newest area, but the biggest opportunity because the vast majority of Starbucks customer occasions are to go. So we really have to figure out how to unlock that system. So I'd say that we are not done with testing yet. And I think someone mentioned earlier, if reuse were easy, we would have already scaled, but it's really challenging. And the whole point of testing is to figure out how to scale. And it's gonna be different by market. We call it a bit of a portfolio approach, where different markets, based on the regulations, based on where consumer behavior is at, based on their business model, are going to have to do things a little differently. So we are going to be seeing a bit of a checkerboard approach for Starbucks over the next few years, but the goal is to ultimately converge towards more reuse than single use, and ideally making reuse the default. So what it takes to scale, I think there's 3 key factors that we think about that are really about the experience, the economic model, and the life cycle assessment. So when we think about the experience, we have to think about how we can make reusables not only easy, but also accessible. We have so many customers that we serve. How can we make it just really easy to opt in, really easy to return? And then for our employees, who we call partners, what can we do to make reusables as seamless as possible for operations? I think that there's definitely some challenges there. Reusables, because they are more durable, they are thicker, they're more insulated, they gotta withstand a lot of reuse, are inherently less stackable. They take up more space. And so that's just one example of where there's these bits of tension. And so how can we find solutions to go beyond that? Things like
SKU consolidation. Do we really need so many types of lids at Starbucks, for example? We could probably think about ways to consolidate down. Another thought area that we have with operations is just the speed of service, right? And so reusables oftentimes involve some sort of opt-in as well as return component, but we're really trying to test a lot of ways to minimize those steps, make them easier, or even just eliminate those steps altogether. So those are just a bit of that customer and partner operational consideration, and just beyond making it easy and accessible and the functional needs, it's also about driving that consumer behavior change and driving the movement. So that is a whole nother work stream that we have, which is looking through the lens of behavioral science, looking at behavior change principles and how we can embed that in everything that we do. So I know it's a little long-winded, but that's experience. And then we've got economic model and LCA. So of course, as we all know, reuse, it can ultimately save money, but at the outset, there are some upfront costs, higher costs of reusable packaging, and then developing that circularity. So the return network, the washing, the logistics, it all is an added cost in the beginning. And so the challenge is, how can we drive those economies of scale? And then how can we find ways to offset costs? Probably through, using less single use, right? But there's maybe other ways, or are there even upside opportunities? And lastly, I don't need to say much about life cycle assessment. That is the perennial challenge of just how you design that end-to-end value chain for reuse that is optimized for sustainability. And I'll just close out by saying that the challenges that we face with experience, with the business model, with the life cycle assessment, those are just the same challenges that any business, large or small, faces. And so that is actually great because it's ripe for collaboration. And Starbucks, we're always looking to connect with innovators, with other businesses, really figure out what we can all do to kind of move forward faster together. Two examples, one, of course, the Next Gen Consortium with closed loop partners, really connecting with a lot of other major global brands, sharing learnings, doing research together, even thinking about piloting things together. And then, of course, we're involved with a lot of other industry associations, things like the Sustainable Packaging Coalition. They have a reuse collaborative where folks meet every single month to talk about reuse, the challenges, and share best practices.
Georgia, I think you can agree with me that Starbucks is really lucky to have Helen. Right, audience? That was a master class. And I'm glad we're recording this, because what you are highlighting is you have your PhD in reusables and the strategy that's needed to go behind it. And investors like you, Georgia, you have to evaluate companies and the companies that you want to invest in. And how do you consider those companies in terms of, and this goes back to the question, of how we're going to get reusables to scale?
It's a great question, and I think Helen did a great summary of it's very complex to reuse as a systems challenge, and so it takes a lot of collaboration. From an investor perspective, obviously our lens is a financial lens as well as a environmental and social lens, and so for us, when it comes to reuse, we're looking at a number of different factors across the board, but firstly, the demand side is going to be really important. So is there evidence from a company of purchase orders in place, or strategic partnerships in place, or service agreements, really just showing a market indicator of positive growth. So that's something that we're always going to be looking at. The other piece is making sure that there's demonstrated proof of concept in the field. So has a company moving from the lab proof of concept to actually in the field showing successes there. And then I think from an investment perspective, we're always looking at teams. So obviously startups are oftentimes very small teams, and so your team is your strength, and we look at team dynamics and other factors of when we're evaluating different companies to invest in. And then I think more broadly, sort of getting reuse mainstream, there's macro factors around policy, for example. And so I think there's a lot of work to be done on thoughtful policy and making sure there's representation at the table, diverse representation from industry, but also NGOs, environmental justice groups, so that we can really move forward on progressive policy that enables the system to grow.
Thank you for that, Georgia. And this leads us to a question for you, Yinka and Ashma. And this is about collaboration. And so we're the Reusies this year, and we're discovering really that the shift to reusables is really a community-led effort. And I'd like to find out from both of you what lessons that you've learned about these community experiences in deploying a strategy such as reusables. And I'll start with you, Yinka.
So I'll start by first naming the fact that last year was actually the 40th anniversary of Warren County, North Carolina's protest of a landfill that was in proximity to a primarily African American community. That moment is actually cited as the catalyzing moment of our environmental justice broad movement. That was 40 years ago. And what I say is, you know, from waste management's inception, environmental injustice has been a cornerstone, right? So we think about the existence of these sacrifice zones in our management strategies, and what we're doing through reuse and other sustainability strategies is really saying no more of that, right? We cannot have communities burdened by these injustices just be a part of business as usual. And so when we think about involving community members, we have to do that through that lens of environmental justice. We have to say, as we're building a more sustainable future, we have to undo the legacy of harms and injustices as well, and that can happen simultaneously. So why is this important? Well, yes, it's because it's healing work in a lot of ways, but as well, community members are critical for effective solutions and strategies. It takes the community to co-create these initiatives, and you have to have community buy-in for these strategies to really be realized. And the other thing I will say is community members are critical partners in creating the products and technologies that make reuse possible. We have so many wonderful entrepreneurs who can use support in just getting their enterprises off the ground that can be embedded in their own communities, which better resonates with community members as well, right? If you know someone that's starting a reuse business that's from your same neighborhood or community, I think you're more likely to take on that business. And what's fabulous about our community leaders who are ingrained in the needs of their own communities is they know how to conduct outreach, right? They simultaneously educate their surrounding neighbors to explain why these products are really critical. And I have so many friends that are doing this work, and they're here, they're ready for partnership, and it's really exciting.
Thank you, Yinka. And what you did was you took us on a journey from 40 years ago, Warren County, North Carolina. The community stood up for itself and said, we're a sacrifice zone and this isn't acceptable. And fast forward to Seattle, where you, Ashima, are working at the center of a what would be considered a flagship program on reuse. And it couldn't have happened without the community. So could you talk a little bit more first, how long has Reuse Seattle been going on, and how has community engagement been since then?
So Reuse Seattle itself is a relatively new initiative. It's been going on for about 2 or 3 years. But it's really building on decades of work in the Seattle area and the community, by the city, by community members on thoughtful environmental work around recycling and composting and waste prevention. So it's a new initiative, but again, it's building on decades of work. In terms of Reuse Seattle as an initiative, we very early on in this work, there was just broad recognition that this has to be collaborative. There's no point for the city to be just working with individual businesses, checking off the list that, okay, they've moved from single use to reuse. We need to be collaborative in nature, working with everyone from the large stadiums and corporates in our city to the small cafes and business owners to the national reuse service providers to bring them to our cities. So every step we've taken has been with collaboration at its core. In terms of some of the kind of lessons that we've learned through that journey so far, first and foremost, I think it's a lot of this is about relationships and building that trust and community. This echoing sort of Yinka's point around this, we when we're talking to people about reuse, we need to send trusted messengers to various communities to make sure that it's making sense to those local cafes and restaurants, and they understand the benefits for them. We have spent a lot of time on community outreach, and we have people on the ground that are working with those businesses to make sure that they have a good experience with reuse as well, so that they don't get turned off by the idea as well. I also think we recognize that in order to build this reuse community, there needs to be a lot of give and take. We can't just have high expectations for businesses to make the switch without also offering something up. So we as the city have put forward a rebate program where businesses can apply for a $500 rebate and actually make that transition a lot easier for them. And so we're constantly thinking about what can we offer as the city, how can we make this as easy as possible for our community members and for our businesses.
And thank you for that. Seattle is a great place to live and work and do business for a lot of the reasons that you're describing. And the city took risks to go forward with reuse because, a lot of times you don't have any models to go on, or you have pilots and you want to scale and you're wondering, is this going to work? And when you think about it from a corporate context, I want to get your thoughts on this, Helen and Georgia and Ashma. What risks are associated with doing something that's new?
So many. It's really tough, right? Reuse is very nascent. It is not something that you can research and then just put out in the wild. It actually takes a lot of testing and learning and iterating to get it right, and it takes a lot of time. So I think from Starbucks' perspective, there's probably 3, risk/challenge areas. And one is, of course, always the environmental impact, right? Reuse in theory is great, but reuse in practice is really hard. And to the point of that testing and learning and iterating, you have to actually put something out there to then figure out how to optimize that. And then we know that consumer behavior is in a very early place, and that the results we see today are not necessarily indicative of what we will see 5-10 years from now. But of course, if nobody does anything, what we see today is what we're going to see 5 to 10 years from now. So it's all very interrelated. And so it's that challenge of how do you create something that is desirable, that is feasible, that is viable, and then adding that what is sustainable. It's such a huge challenge because all the factors are interrelated. I think the second area, and I would definitely not call this a risk, it's more just growing pains, is just this landscape of lots of communities, local, state, federal, governments really interested in reuse and starting to develop regulations and mandates for reuse, and that is all a wonderful thing. We welcome it. It also creates a challenge for any sort of business that operates in many places to figure out where is it happening and how does it affect us? How do we interpret the language in this bill? And what should we do? And literally the tracking and just ensuring compliance puts many businesses in a bit of a reactive place, but as it should be, gotta move forward. So I wouldn't call it a risk, of course. It's just a call to action to have more consistency in terms of how reuse is defined, what are the standards for reuse, and also how can we all collectively measure in a similar way. And of course, I know there's lots of folks, probably some of the audience, who are working directly on things like that and influencing policymakers at all levels to create more standardized reuse definitions. And I think the third area, which perhaps is unique to a larger company like Starbucks, is this idea that if there is lots of reuse innovators and companies in the marketplace, the last thing anyone wants is a fractured experience for customers where they're literally lugging reusables around of all different brands and having to find this return bin for this and that for that. So there is for sure that benefit to collaboration and creating some sort of interoperable system. However, there's also that balance of what is standardized versus what is customized. And I know that's often a debate, a conversation that we have with lots of other companies and cities and et cetera. But I think there's definitely some areas that are very obvious for collaboration, things like building that circular infrastructure in a way that drives those economies of scale. Those things don't exist today. Everybody needs them. Got to get those reusables washed and get back to their location, right? And so that easily should be interoperable. There's other things. For Starbucks, for instance, the cup. The cup is very iconic and also very functional and operational. And so for us, that's probably an area where we would need a little customization and actually have our own cup. And it's not just because it's the Starbucks logo and everything, it's actually because of a lot of the functional characteristics needed. It has to be, insulated for boiling hot beverages. It needs to have build lines for the baristas to make certain drinks. There's just a lot of requirements that require some uniqueness there. So just a little bit of tension there between that standardization and customization.
So I'm hopeful. It sounds like it's coming. We've got the right person doing it in Georgia, right? In Georgia, this question's for you, and it is related to risk. But I'm wondering if you could tell the audience a little bit more about what an investor would look at when they are looking at businesses that are startups in the reuse space, or maybe they're even midway through investment.
Sure, I think I will build on, because a very important piece of risk generally around reuse is unintended consequences. And I think it's worth always calling out that phrase a little bit, in that anytime we're transitioning a system, and here we're thinking from linear to circular, anytime you're transitioning to a new system, you run the risk of introducing unintended consequences. And so it's something that at Closed Loop Partners, we're always trying to look through that lens and make sure that we don't do such. We don't want to perpetuate some of the challenges with the current system. And so from a reuse perspective, and we've kind of touched on it briefly already, but return rates are key. And I know we talked about this on Monday too. And so what we don't want is reusables being used as single use, right? They're a lot more energy intensive. There's durable plastic or other materials. And so I think we really, really focus on, we want to see companies where return rates are over 90% at least, so that we don't sort of get unintended consequences. I think another risk area as we transition systems is around policy. So we've seen policy is very effective at behavior change. So in New Jersey, for example, there's been single-use plastic bans, and those have been really effective at decreasing the use of single-use plastic bags. But in addition, we need that complementary customer education, consumer education campaigns, as well as the infrastructure piece too. So we just need to make sure things are working sort of holistically and complementary, and so that there's all those pieces fitting together. It's a bit of a puzzle, and you got to kind of get all the right pieces to create the systems change that we're looking for.
Thank you. And to round things out, Ashima and Yinka.
I'll just build on George's point around the risk around policy potentially. We definitely see policy in Seattle on the horizon around reusables. But we're trying sort of this tried and tested approach that the city has taken before with things like food scrap collections and single-use bags, where we actually first make sure that we kind of shore up support for the idea, make sure that there's service availability for reuse, make sure that there's infrastructure available for reuse. We then move to this phase, which we're sort of at now, where we're kind of championing the first movers, and really working out the kinks with them on how are they finding this reuse experience? Is it working for businesses? Is it working for businesses of all kinds? And are we doing it in an equitable way as well? And then finally, we move to the phase of moving from voluntary to mandatory. Once we know that the system is working, and we can then start to kind of introduce that policy. So that's certainly a risk that we're cognizant of not introducing policy too quickly, such that the market is just simply not ready for it, and we leave a lot of people behind in that place. One other risk, I think Helen was sort of alluding to this, is that customer or resident experience or community experience. I certainly see a tension sometimes if we're moving very quickly in reuse, and there's a lot of little bits to work out still. And we want to make sure that residents don't get turned off by the idea of reuse or have a really negative experience in some way, or it ends up being a really niche idea that is only functioning in specific neighborhoods in Seattle, for example. So we're definitely thinking about that. What is the resident experience of reuse, and how do we make sure we're not scaring anyone away from this idea of reuse, because it really does need to be working in the long term.
And I think what we're learning here, Yinka, is that things are complex when you start to think about deploying reuse, but they're not impossible. Can you talk about risk in the work that you do?
Absolutely. I think when I think about risk in this space, it really centers around equities and potential inequities. This is a huge industry with a huge economic projection. And so we have to interrogate who is receiving the benefits of that and who is potentially receiving the burdens of that. In a lot of communities that could be considered frontline communities to the climate crisis, you'll also see issues of food swamps or food deserts, where the communities also lack access to healthy nutritional food and are burdened by highly processed, highly packaged food products. How are they being involved and engaged in this conversation, right? What are those local entities, how are they being engaged, so that we're doing the necessary educations to really transform all of our communities positively? So I think if we don't intentionally center equity, whether that's in policy solutions, product design, we're gonna leave a lot of people out of the equation. And so that's a huge, huge risk, and we don't wanna do that. So I think really thinking about centering equity ubiquitously, right? And working in collaboration across policy solutions, across product development solutions, across nonprofit community engagement solutions, to make sure that we're all speaking the same language and working together to center equity.
Thank you. And we're coming to an end to this, but we've got a couple more questions for our panelists. One of them really is, I'd like to get from you maybe just a couple of minutes, what your thoughts are of how you envision a new reuse world. Ashima, can we start with you?
Sure. I'll throw out a few favorite words in Reuse Seattle. Integrated, interoperable, standardized. We need reuse systems that are emerging to be interconnected and working together. So that certainly is a big part of our vision of a new reuse world. We also need it to be easy, affordable, accessible, convenient. And so those are words that we're using all the time in the Reuse Seattle team, and we keep coming back to really importantly.
Thank you. We have an excited audience member
I
here.
know. Future generations excited about reuse.
Exactly. Don't worry, baby. We're bringing reuse soon.
I know. We need to work faster. We get it.
I think second everything that Ash just said. So I think the only other statement I would say is just I would love to see reuse be the default and single use be the opt-out. Hopefully doesn't even exist. But I mean, today I'm sure many of us have used reuse systems, and usually you have to opt in, you have to go through lots of different pieces. So I would love reuse to be the default. And then also, again, I think accessibility and inclusivity is going to be key in thinking about, not everyone has smartphones or credit cards. And so there's a lot of solutions that are based on those, and that's, so it's just kind of widening the aperture of what reuse solutions looks like to make sure we do get that future of accessible, inclusive, integrated, and all of the words that Ash mentioned.
So my vision of the new reuse world is really reuse at every corner. It's everywhere you turn. And it's really about everyone banding together to do it together. I love my frameworks, as you can probably tell. But I have this framework where it's sort of like layers of the onion of what if Starbucks were to go alone because we're trying to go fast, and there is actually a possibility we may be kind of one of the only big players in the market trying to scale, right? But then what if we partner within our own network and then outer layers of the onion with other businesses, with other innovators, trying to create an ecosystem? What would that look like? And really 3 key benefits, one being impact. Not only is there more reusables presence, ubiquity, et cetera, there's also the collective, marketing power of all of these companies driving consumer awareness and preference for reuse, which is going to then accelerate that behavior migration, creating a true movement. And that is only going to help the next two areas, which is scale, which is, of course, driving to that economies of scale, the efficiency, getting it broad, and then, of course, efficiency from a sustainability standpoint, just driving down or driving up the environmental impact there. And so all of those three things working in tandem, and I think similar to Georgia, I definitely have a vision where reuse isn't just an extra, you've got the single use and you've got the reusable, but it truly becomes the default. It's the new normal. And the way that we've been trying to position this internally with our Starbucks leaders is that this is going to become the Starbucks experience. There is really no other experience, so how do we design the reuse experience to be the experience we want it to be?
Go Starbucks.
So I think we're in a sustainability renaissance, which is spurring so many innovations and creativity. So if you're a Beyonce fan, you're very primed for a circular economy. I think my vision is environmental justice is the goal, the result, the outcome. And we're centering the community members who historically have been relegated into positions of marginality and face the burdens of injustices. And what does that look like? It looks like local economies where those same community members are invested in and have enterprises that support this work, but can also plug into global supply chains, right? How do we reimagine partnerships and businesses usual to center decentralized strategies and local makers and entrepreneurs? I think the future of reuse, my biggest vision is one that there are no sacrifice zones, there's only liberation zones. And we're doing necessary healing work to transform our world.
That was beautifully said, Yinka. And just to cap everything off, yes, reuse coming. Storefront near you. I just want to acknowledge the very last question is from the brilliant mind of Vanessa Tongson. She's our Chief Marketing Officer, and she loves calls to action. And I'd like to know from each one of the panelists, considering the folks that are here at Circularity, large presence of global brands, retailers, there's NGOs, there's a lot of very influential folks here at Circularity. What would be your call to action for them? And we're also thinking about our audience. What would be their call to action as well? Or the audience, when I say audience, I mean the live stream audience. Ashima?
We have a couple calls to action in Reuse Seattle. The first, if you are a reuse service provider or a reuse infrastructure provider and want to be in Seattle, please do come here. We want you to be successful, so let's start that conversation. Two, if you're a reuse, Seattle-based business interested in reuse, we want to help you with that transition, whether you're a large corporate or a small business, reach out to us. Thirdly, as we're building this reuse world, let's please consider standards seriously. We work very closely with PR3. They're developing national standards. That's a critical part of this conversation to make this work. And then to the online audience, as an everyday person walking around your city, wherever you might be, try and engage with reuse wherever you can. A lot of these models are in early stages. They need kind of benevolent users and people that are willing to experiment and provide feedback. So engage wherever you can and keep working with policymakers and activists to push reuse.
I think that last point is absolutely key. We are in this moment of experimentation, and so the feedback is so necessary, and it really is that when you see it on the ground and you're actually engaging, you are potentially downloading an app or interacting there in the field, it makes such a difference. And so providing feedback to the reuse innovators, I think, is a really important piece. And then I think just on an individual level, if you're working at a company and there's if you're in your cafeteria and there's not reusable packaging, then there are so many solutions that we saw earlier. So call to action would be to go to your employers and make sure that there is reusable packaging in your cafeterias. There shouldn't be any excuses. And then I think depending on where you sit in the reuse ecosystem, I think we've all touched on collaboration is key, and especially on that back end, which Helen, you mentioned, the sort of infrastructure build out, collection, washing, everyone needs that in the reuse system. And so it's great to see companies like Redish, which we saw earlier, where they're washing their own stuff, but they're also washing other third-party innovators in the reuse spaces stuff. So that's, really continue to engage with each other and collaborate across the value chain is going to be really important.
I want to tag on to one thing you just said about asking for your workplaces to implement reusables. I think that applies to any sort of closed environment where there is a higher chance of success for reuse. And I basically have this theory of change where if we can get reuse ubiquitous in these closed environments, that's going to expose hundreds of millions of people to reuse, get them used to the idea, get them used to the behavior, and then going to open environments is only going to be that much more successful. But my calls to action, I think, probably similar, is just the value of collaboration, just reaching out. I know this is such a great conference to make connections, form new relationships. So talk to each other, work together, reach out to us. It's going to kind of take a team to kind of build it all together. And then from a personal standpoint, we all have our own networks. We all have influence. I know most folks here have used a reusable, bottle or whatever during the conference, and how do we continue that behavior and really driving that. And just gotta plug Starbucks for one last time. The bring your own is definitely a key focus for us. And one thing that we're trying to do is get that to all of our ordering channels, which is a big deal because right now, technically, bring your own is only accepted in the cafe. Although many baristas will accept it any other way. It's all great. But our team is working on expanding that to drive-through and the mobile order and pay. And really, you're then going to unlock from 25% of occasions to 100%. So by end of calendar year, getting that out there. And most coffee shops offer discounts for BYO. For Starbucks, it's 10 cents off. Plus, if you're a rewards member, 25 stars. It's a lot. You really don't have to go to Starbucks a lot to get a free drink that way. So I just want to plug that.
So I think what I'll first start saying is lean into a radical imagination, that a different way of doing things is possible. And I think that's for both corporations, but also anyone in the audience. A new and better world is possible, and we can lean into that. I also think leveraging collaboration, as everyone has already said, but really reimagining what conventional collaboration looks like. Who has historically been left out of the rooms and spaces, and who can we bring into the fold to make sure that our strategies are really well-rounded and grounded in what's going on, the realities of the world at the local levels, at the national levels, but centering again the frontline communities to the climate crisis. So I think leaning into collaboration and a radical imagination will get us to where we need to go.
Thank you, Yinka. So as we come to an end, I just want to leave you all with something inspirational. This panel, first of all, has been inspirational. So could you give them a round of applause, please? I think we're in very good hands. But there was something very interesting that happened. We're wrapping up Circularity, 3 days of circular bliss. And there was an interesting networking exercise that we had done a couple days ago called Ask Offer. And it was an exercise where all the folks in the room, there was about 250 of them, were asked to ask someone for something that they needed. And then the other person was to offer something, and they did the same. So now here we are with all of these initiatives. We've talked about the risk. We've talked about the nascent nature of some of these things. We're talking about not wanting the communities to fail or people to have a bad experience. And I think that there's a lot of solutions that are in this room. So if you remember the Ask Offer model, as we go forth. This is not the end, but this is the beginning. Thank you so much for attending.
Can I get a picture of the panel? Oh my God, wonderful, wonderful job, really. So inspiring. I think stands. Okay. Like, yeah. I'll take it from back. Oh, up here. Thank you.